lucid dream experience that I'll go ahead and share with you. Last night, I'm lying in bed, and this alarm goes off. Now, I know, for whatever reason, this is a fire alarm. And in the alarm, this automated voice is actually broadcasting, announcing to everyone what room is on fire. The room number is 322, which, even in the dream, I thought that was kind of funny. So, not processing it overly much, I get up and everyone is running out. I'm opening the door. And I think to myself, I probably had better go grab my jacket. So I turn around and I open the door to the hall closet. And the door to the hall closet opens up back outside to the hall. And I thought, wow, now that's weird. So I step out in the hallway, and now I'm looking for someone in particular. But she has ran ahead, and suddenly I can't see her. And then I realize that if I couldn't open the hall closet to get my jacket, because I opened it and I'm in the hallway, that makes no sense. So I'm obviously dreaming. And I look down at my hands and confirm it. And suddenly, the apartment complex that I'm in becomes like an abandoned, maybe that's not the right word, a empty corporate office, but like a corporate headquarters where they have the hallways and the many doors to many different offices. Everything's carpeted. It felt very corporate to me. So I'm walking along the hall, exploring. There's really not much going on. I decide that I'm going to go read some of the memos and some of the papers that are thumbtacked to the press board. Now, something strikes me because I'm a very experienced lucid dreamer. I'm a very experienced worker in the astral. I'm a very experienced magician. And when I can't read something in my own lucid dreams, I know something is really trying to prevent me from figuring where I'm at out. You know what I mean? Something is really trying to prevent me from locating and getting my bearings. All the words are jumbling so quickly that I know that there is something actually doing this, as opposed to when people just begin dreaming and it's hard for them to read. So this instantly sets off another red flag for me. Now I want to find a window. I want to know what time of day it is, because this also gives me clues about the predicament that I'm in. And wandering down these lonely hallways, I'm wondering, one, what is this company that I am wandering around in? What do they do? Two, why are all the desks empty? I'm opening desk drawers and there's not pens, there's not pencils, there's not paper clips, there's no names on the desks. I'm knocking over file cabinets and kicking them open and ripping them open. And there's no papers, there's no files. I am being confined in an area, but the information about it is being taken away. As I'm again wandering around the halls, I see an animal that, to me, is one of those animals that you must follow. In my tradition of Wicca, this animal is an initiator. And so it runs across the hall pretty far in front of me, and so I run and take a left to follow it. When it turns around, it shows me it has a couple different aspects. When it has red eyes, I know that there's something very much wrong. And so I manifest my astral sword, my magical sword, because I know that there's danger now coming. As I turn the corner, I enter into a large lobby room that seems to have a receptionist desk. One of those, like if you go into a doctor's office, they sit behind this glass panel, and they have a door that goes back into their own little private office space. And to the right of that is another hallway, and this room is like a little waiting area with a couch to my right, a full wall to my left, and those kind of indiscriminately put office plants. I get the feeling that it's nighttime outside, and that I am about to be disturbed. The animal that led me here goes and kind of jumps up on the couch and lays itself down and stares at me, and I know I'm being watched. I'm being watched not only by what is about to make its presence known, but I'm being watched by my divinities. I know that what I do in these next few moments is going to matter. Out of the hallway walks an extremely tall man, 7, 8 feet tall, but gets taller in my presence. I am right now trying to look at his face, and his face seems just slightly out of phase, like it is purposely trying to haze it from me. I have dealt with Archons in the past. Enter the Archon. Now, my tradition primarily targets reptilian entities. Doesn't mean we don't like Archons either. So, he's dressed in a dark suit, indiscriminate, nothing in particular about it, generic. Archons, by nature, are generic. They don't like the small details. They like the overlaying broad spectrum of authority. And now it makes sense. My space was being invaded by an Archon. The fire alarm, the number, it should have cued me in. The fire alarm, that did cue me in. That was a warning that something was going on. The fact that I couldn't pick out the small details, I couldn't see the fine print, I couldn't read the papers on the poster board, there was no information in the desks, that everything was very generic, very just cookie-cutter, appearance-based. As if I was on autopilot, I might register this as an office, but I am a magician. This is different. The Archons don't seem to be able to figure this out. The black suit, authoritative, but no real definition, not a particular style, not any particular cut, just bland. But he's coming at me with certain amounts of authority. Well, as a magician for 20 plus years, with my own divinities witnessing, even without them witnessing, there would be no backing down from me, but especially not now. So with sword in hand, I turn the tables. It comes at me, now I come at it. And I am grabbing it by its nondescript black tie, and I am now enraged with fury. I am enraged, inflamed with holy righteousness. Pure anger in a righteous sense. This Archon has come to intimidate me, to bully me. Its intentions are to control, to enslave, to put me back in its perceived place. Why do I think this is an Archon? Because this being is angelic. This being is a computer program. This being is a machination, a simple operation of divine scope, but limited options. It's there to tell me that I had better fall back in line. It's there to oppress me. I am not one to be oppressed. So I grab this Archon and we struggle. And suddenly he's growing bigger and bigger and bigger, and his face becomes even more hazy, undefined, until it is just simply like a blank, flesh-colored wall, kind of hazy that I can't see, with a slight light emanating from behind it. I tell you now, angels are not your friends. Angels serve only their master. And their master does not love humans. So I and this Archon, we grapple. It's a test of will. And finally, I get tired of this whole process, and I take my sword and I run it through it. Here's an interesting thing. Something that had never occurred to me before. Something that now that I've done, I kind of want other people to do. Because I would love to know more about this. As I stuck my sword, my magical astral sword, through this Archon, this strange compulsion came over me. I left the sword inside the body, but I took my hands and forced it deeper into that wound I had just caused and began to rip the Archon open. I was consumed with the idea of sticking my head inside the body of this Archon because I wished to study it from the inside out. The moment that thought fully manifested, I heard the most authoritative, unhuman, almost robotic scream of no. As if I had uncovered some interesting secret, some device hidden inside the Archon that would greatly, greatly turn the tables. Knowing that, I stuck my head in. Pulling this thing apart, it had tangible resistance, but it was like akin to a melon, like a weird, the shell of it and then the soft inside, but it wasn't moist. As I looked inside, there was this giant expanse of white light everywhere. And it seemed as though I was sticking my head into a whole alternate dimension. But as I looked a little bit longer, at this time this being had grown so tall, I imagined its arms could not reach me. But then again, it didn't seem to really matter anymore. I just kept slicing away every time it tried to close the wound. I would just slice and cut it open further and further, rip and rip and rip it open further. It actually began to leak out, which is odd. It was like space suddenly leaking out, empty space suddenly becoming tangible and flowing out. It was definitely an interesting paradox to witness. There were pinkish, almost like jellyfish globs that came into view as if it would be like red blood cells coming to seal up a wound in a person. But as they approached, I could tell that they looked almost as though they themselves had a robotic or nanotechnology inside of them. And so me being there with my sword, why not dissect one of those globular things? Again, a shrill, even more desperate no came out from everywhere. Now, I look back quickly at the animal still sitting on the couch behind me, and it did not seem distressed. And then I realized perhaps my own divinities were there watching. They too could see inside this and were curious. So, not to disappoint my divinities, I continue to proceed with my vivisection of an Archon. As I cut open the pink gelatinous globs, another large space appeared as I peered into them. However, this time it was filled with trillions and trillions and trillions of what looked like small miniature gears and twanging mechanisms that seemed to kind of hit each other like pegs, but they were made out of like a crystalline light. That this itself was kind of a programming. Now, it occurred to me not to touch this, and I still don't know why. But I allowed the creature to come over and get a good look at what was inside this. And sure enough, the wound of this Archon still tried to close, and I cut it open again. And begin to now step into the wound and pull upward that I could rip open more and more of its quasi-flesh. The more I did this, the more these globular things appeared, and they went from pink to now more of a blue, and it went to more silver, and then green started to appear. And they weren't just globular anymore. They actually had very basic, sharp geometric shapes. As I began to look around even more inside this vast space, which was inside the body of this Archon, I can begin to see now more machine-style mechanisms, as though I had actually opened up a computer of some sort. There was a part of me then that this incantation came out of. I had never spoken these words, and it was almost in a language that I was not, I wouldn't know exactly what it meant, but it was though the guide animal, the spiritual animal that is linked to me, was directing these words to me. And so I whispered it to one of these mechanisms that I could see inside of it. I knew that whatever that incantation was sort of a computer virus. And when I did that, this almost emotionless being, I think, felt fear. As I stepped away, I could see it grasp the wound and begin to suffer. I don't think they've suffered before. These Archons can be defeated through magic. I don't know why, but I am going to do my best to recall and try and bring out that incantation. And when I do, I will share it with all of you. Perhaps this is some sort of channeled message, some sort of new weapon in the arsenal of humanity. if the Archons are a computer program, and computers are, and the internet in particular, are manifestations of a larger process somewhere else, as above, so below, then it would serve to reason that there perhaps is a type of virus that can be implanted, that can corrupt their systems. This being fell. I mean, it fell hard. Interesting. Very, very interesting. I share this with you because I want you to discuss it. I share this with you because I want you to explore the idea of what that could be. If anyone else has had a similar experience in dissecting a vivisection of an Archon, that would be great too. I will do my best to try and remember the complete incantation. It was strange sounding, and I know I had never spoken anything similar, but I can get a fragment of it. But I want to think of the whole thing. I want to remember the whole thing before I give out some shell of it. I will probably have to work with that particular divinity, that particular deity, a few times. Maybe I will have the pleasure of remembering it. And then I will bring it forth. And we'll see what happens. Interesting. Also, speaking of vivisections, I am not so much into the whole Christianity, obviously, but there are aspects of it that I find very intriguing. About a week ago, prior to last night, I had a dream where I was standing before this relatively attractive naked woman. And looking at her, I could tell she was pregnant. And then the whole feeling began to change as from about behind her midsection appeared this face that I will spare you description, but horrible to say the least. From her left side appeared what I'm going to imagine was its hand holding a knife. This thing was behind her. And I realized that in the dream, this was Mary Magdalene. This being plunged a knife into her stomach and cut downward, a lot like I cut into the Archon. A baby girl fell out of the wound and into this thing's hand. And it slithered away with it. Had I been able to act, had I been able to become lucid at that time, I would have gone after him. But I believe that it was something more, because the image of Mary Magdalene said to me, vivisection is vivisera. The child supposedly of Mary and Jesus was named Sarah. Vivisection is vivisera. Live dissection, live Sarah. Sarah was alive. Go with that what you mean too. I'm looking into that. Also, so if you have information about that, let me know. But I will do my best to try and come back with this incantation computer virus. Should be interesting. Should be very interesting. So, go with that. Think on it, dream with it, whatever. Send me messages, tell me what you think. Let's try to put something together.